All right. It's the time to go ahead and get started. So the title of this presentation is Monitoring a View from the Other Side of Texas. So Jewel, every time we are planning this conference, he talks about how to make, some of our information is the same, especially monitoring. It's the same information year after year. So try to find a way to make your presentations different, interesting, whatever. So we decided to make our presentation more interesting, to not listen to us at all. So we have a panel of 4 of your colleagues, and of course that's us in here somewhere. Don't need to introduce ourselves again, but you got Dr. Denise Ling from Berkeley, Dr. Beth Brooks from Newberry, Roy Carlson from Greenwood 50, and Dr. Jennifer Kaufman from Fairfield have graciously been voluntold to help us out with this presentation. So basically, if you were in our session yesterday, we talked about monitoring process. Well, we have some slides with questions, prompts, topics, and it's going to be their opportunity to kind of share what they do to prepare for monitoring, and then you can ask questions to see. Everyone does things differently. Not all of them use Crate. They do different things. So we're going to have a chance to pick the pros' brain. Okay. So without any further ado, I'm going to stand. I got chairs. Whatever y'all want to do, I'll push the button, and won't let Denise talk too long, so we can keep moving. All right. So first topic is planning. So like kind of some thought starters was like, what's your first step after being notified to be a monitor? What resources do you rely on to create your plan for monitoring? And what advice can you share throughout that process? So,
I'll start.
Perfect.
So, what we did in fall, we got our date. I immediately did a timeline with the office assistant that was going to work for us around other things that we had going on as well. We're the Office of Special Projects. So this is a piece of all the things that we do. So we just planned backward and made a timeline that was going to work for us. The good of that, in letting folks know early about all the steps along the way, because we would be collecting things from them and we would cut off the edit rights. We use Google Drive. It allows for some self-pacing for my principals, for the other departments. How many of you guys in your district know exactly when you send something out, who you're going to hear back from first? Yep. And how many of y'all know who you're going to have to call because they didn't read the email? Yeah. They're very good with me. So let them know way in advance, and then building in some reminders along the way for me has allowed me to let folks set their own pace within those parameters.
I do Google. I don't do Google, but I do Craig. And so I was going to say the same thing Jennifer did. The first thing you do when you know you're going to get monitors, look at the calendar. What do you need to move around? What do you need to do? How do you pace? This year we were monitored in September. So it wasn't a lot of time to say, all right, that we were working on last year, because first half of the year, if you're in the first half of the year, you're doing the previous year. Second half, you're doing your current year. So our 22 school Title I facilitators, it was let's get our ducks in a row and get started. But we use Crate in our district. And so one of the things we do to get everybody planning is we took Crate and we took the monitoring document and we took it and divided it into a monthly calendar for our schools. And so every month when we talk to them, meet with them, however we're communicating that month, we talk about all the things they are going to load into Crate for that month. We put the due dates in Crate so they get their reminders. So we literally took the monitoring document and made it into quarters for the school year. And so they're doing it a little bit at a time all year long. And as soon as they do an activity, they're loading their documentation. So it was not maybe in my early years, which was a long time ago, where you heard you were going to get monitored and you spent a month just trying to find everything to put it in a box so somebody could look at it. Greg was able to pull our crate open. He could do it as a desk audit at the State Department level, and when he came to visit, it was a short visit. Let's get out of the schools and see it in real action. And that is such a difference than it was 26 years ago. So, we just take it in bites. We plan it. We make it part of the everyday work. And every year you are being prepared to be monitored, whether you're in your yearly cycle or not, because that is how we do good work.
One of the first things that I did when I found out that we were going to be monitored was I kind of looked at the list of student emails that gone through the process first. And Spartanburg 6, Miss Amy, she had gone through the process, and I went and visited with her, sat down with her, just to kind of see what she had put together, any advice that she had for me. It was so important to allow your colleagues to utilize them, because there's lots and lots of knowledge in this room. And she took the monitoring tool and she put it in a booklet, similar to what Wisconsin has here. And I shared that with my folks, and we made everything electronic and uploaded. I divided it up with by department, and each department knew what they were responsible for. So we did everything electronically, uploaded those documents and put links in there, and we shared that with the State Department, and that went over really, really well. We use a combination of Google and Google Docs and Google Files and Title I correctly, and that has worked well for us. So I'm the grandma. Been around a long time. So I am pretty paper heavy. We do use the crate, and one thing I do is I design and send this to everybody that has documents that have to submit those, and I go through and mark what documents for each item that we need and who's responsible for sending it to me. So we sit down at the first of the year and kind of go through anything that might have changed or who has to do that. So the other thing we do, and I brought a few that I've got left, you're welcome to if you want a copy. We do 2 calendars every year. This is the liaison and the principal calendar. And so we basically do what Smith does, and we list every month what's due and that they made in the file. And when it's coming up, and in the back, because we have 11 Title I schools, and for us, we want it uniform. So in the back, it'll tell them what their attendance are going to be for each meeting, what forms they need to fill out, what the sign-in sheet looks like. Everything's just done for them in one calendar, so that we know what to expect. And the file names, when they come in, they're ready for us to upload. They actually do put them in crate, and we move them. We edit our crate and have one area where we can, all the liaisons and the principals send their documents, and then we move them where they go in, the different components. And then for the parents, we do a parent calendar every year. And so a lot of the requirements that the notifications that you have to give to parents, we include in their calendars. So when we have the monitoring, we send them a copy of the calendar so that they know all the notifications that parents have received, and it's kind of all in one place. So, I am probably more paper heavy than some people just because of my age. I'll just tell you, I used to type Title I plans on a typewriter. That tells you
If there's no questions specific to that, we'll leave time at the end for questions. All right, so from planning to actual the preparation, so what works well for you when you're preparing, like it's coming up in a certain date. What processes do you need to rethink or didn't go according to plan? Whether you're most recently monitored, you thought something was going great, and then you had to pivot. And then what other advice would you share? I didn't get any questions ahead of time.
That's why I keep looking up at it. When I talked about the fact that we kind of chunk it up into quarters and even into months, and so the folks in our school, now we're blessed to have, we've got 22 Title I schools, and we have a Title I facilitator. It's a full-time position in every one of those schools, and this is part of their job, is to really manage and implement a great grant and a great program for their school. So they're doing the documentation. They load everything in crate. I don't have a staff big enough to handle that kind of thing at the district office. And so they're doing that. And probably one of the things that we think works well for us, because we have very much kind of structured what they need to do and when they need to do it to help them get through the job. We then do monthly visits in every one of our schools as a site visit, and one of those things is to glance through the checklist with them each month and say, now where are you struggling? The other thing that I would say works well with us, and this is just a Crate thing because we're trying to use the system to its maximum. So those of you that use Crate, somebody loads something in Crate and you get the chance to review it. And if you don't like it or it doesn't meet the criteria, it can be rejected. We track every monitoring item that is rejected. And then at the end of every quarter, we go back and retrain on that item. So we're trying to use it as a data piece to also help us help our facilitators get better. And so we know which items in the monitoring document that they don't quite understand. And we try to retrain on that or give them exemplars of what it should look like or the best ones we've had in our district so that they can try to reach that standard themselves. And that's worked well for us. So the more we pour into them, the better the quality of work that they do, and the less we have to really redo or manage at the district level.
I don't have facilitators, but I do have parent liaisons that are school-based, and so they come together once a month. And we did something similar this year. We're finishing up our monitoring cycle right now. On their monthly meeting schedule was monitoring. And so they did whatever they needed with that. They might bring a paper folder and say, you know, if it was a new person, am I collecting the right things? They might pull up the Google Drive and say, okay, I've got this. I'm not sure where it goes. And we really hashed through that with them on a monthly basis.
We have monthly principal check-ins as well, where we take a look at some of their needs, and it's actually a time for some Title I or discuss any concerns that they have. But we have a large focus, of course, on Title I. And I feel like we need to clarify because I said I divided up amongst departments. In Newberry County, I am only responsible for Title I, Title IV, and N and D. So there's somebody else that does Title II, somebody else that does Title III. Then, of course, student services, they handle all the Vento information. So just want to clarify that. But we also do, well, I guess I should say we do two check-ins. We have a monthly check-in where I go and meet with each individual principal, and then we have another leadership team meeting where we always include Title I on the agenda and discuss upcoming topics and meetings during those meetings as well.
So with similarly, we have, I meet with the principals monthly when they have the principals meetings. Our liaisons, we pay stipends like $2,200, and it's a teacher and a girl that keeps up with our paperwork. And so we don't have a lot of staff. I have secretaries, the two of us. I do a lot of title programs, but I think our biggest challenge has been like the homeless, and some of there's a lot of homeless out there in the monitoring pool. And so I don't know that their training is a specific thing as ours. So a lot of times they aren't sure what to send me, and so I think supporting other areas in our building is a tricky part for me because I don't need a key, so I'm not more familiar with all those components, but yet a lot of times we'll ask, you know, what do we upload for that? And so usually I'm calling in another district and I'm going to see if we can get an example. But I think that's the tricky part is coordinating all the other departments that you're not in charge of.
If we don't have any parent liaison, then we are county.
How many Title I schools we have? I heard 11, 21.
I have 9.
9.
That's 8 elementary and 1 middle school.
So my district is very small. We're all Title I eligible. We serve 5 elementaries.
Nobody's got as many as you, Tracy. No.
Well, and the thing about it, y'all, honestly, all of us are from different size districts. It's all the same documentation that's required. The document is still 64 pages long for everybody. You You just
be
have,
longer, hey, okay?
you have more pieces, obviously.
I think the best advice, Barrett, is, I mean, yeah, the four of us have known each other a really long time. We'll have to talk about this a little bit up here. But none of us got to where we are or do what we do by ourselves. I mean, I've called half the faces in this room probably, or somebody's called me and said, how do you do this, or what do you do? Nobody has to learn this all by themselves. That is the one wonderful thing about our state. We've got a great SEA. They're all very supportive. We've all been very supportive of ourselves in our own groups because we have a good state organization. So I would hate for anybody to walk out of this room and think that they couldn't call a friend, phone a friend, got a lifeline, whatever you want to call it.
And Denise, you know, it's not like that every year.
Oh, it is not like that in every state.
You know, the consolidated document came as a result of that. Because we were having monitoring for one year and monitoring for 3 the next year and 2 the following year after that. It just felt like it was an everyday thing for us and our finance directors. And so that really is very responsive in combining those things.
I think the one other tricky thing, I know Denise says about the same as I do, but when you go through the monitoring instrument, you'll see like the compact in 4 or 5 places, right? So we typically do a spreadsheet. Last time we were monitored, you would see the compact, and I had a row across showing every place you would find it. And so before the monitoring, I sent that to CR, that was my first and last time. I sent it to her that showed, here's the compact, and here's all the places you're gonna find it for documentation in a grid. And it helped me, so when we uploaded the compact, we knew we had to put it in 5 places.
And we did try to clean some of that, but it's now still there for certain things.
You still have it?
I did, and I know Denise was just monitoring. Mine's probably not as up to date as Denise's, but yeah, I'm just gonna share that.
And y'all, mine is way more informal than that. I took the monitoring document the first time I used it several years back and actually wrote names and roles in there, and it's in my handwriting. So we've done that very same thing again. Toward the end of our gathering and uploading of things, I thought, I'm going to scan this in so Barrett can see it, and he'll know exactly what I was thinking and why these things are in these folders. And so it worked. And so next week you're going to get the same thing.
This was strategic, I'll say now, but it actually kind of happened. But our panel is represented with someone who was monitored this year, last year, a couple years ago.
Yeah, I'm next.
Last year and this month.
Yeah. You will have it first of the week because we were going spring break.
I didn't think about that until like just now, but isn't that how smart we are? All right, so close out. What I mean by that topic is like once you've been monitored, it's the after, it's the follow up, it's the if you get your good boy letter, good girl letter, or if there's findings or checklists or whatever. So just kind of if you had that talk to some of that, and if you have any advice for us to make that better, now's the time.
It's really nice to get the good girl letter or the good boy letter. And you kind of do wait around. Even when Greg is nice enough to say, everything looked really great today, you still want that piece of paper in writing to show that superintendent, because they get it too, that lets you know that, all that hard work's been validated. Not to be bragging by any means, but we've never had findings since I've been in Berkeley. But I would say, don't tempt fate, right? I have 3 more years and I'm working in Berkeley better. I will say that the monitoring, getting ready for the monitoring visit can be extremely reflective. We have found more things that we need to do better before anybody else ever told us we needed to. And I'm not Catholic, but usually the first thing I do is say, we noticed this and we're going to get better at this before you ask me what I need to get better at. One of the things that we knew that we wanted to get better at was that interfacing of different programs. Because again, in Berkeley, our office manages all of the SEA, but McKinney-Vento is really implemented by our student services division. And so I have to go work with my social workers, my guidance counselors. I have to go work with them to get that information. And what we recognized is in our own house, we knew exactly what we each other expected. And I guess you can say you have a little more control over that. But you have to work hard to work with an outside office and the outside agency to, number one, train them to what you need, because they might not come to all these meetings. And another thing is to make sure they follow procedure well, because, and I said this morning, I forgot who I said it to. I'm going to use McKinney-Vento is my thing. You have to be extremely responsive to our homeless students, to our foster care students, to situations kids are in every day that you need to use your empathy and that compassion, and you just need to get it done and fix it. But that means you probably didn't follow a procedure. And when I go back and I got to have the procedure, we got to help each other understand how important that is. So I would say, I've not had to follow up on anything after the fact, but in that process, that is one of the places I know that we have had to work the hardest. Not that anybody tried to do anything wrong, but in this responsiveness of just take care of the situation, you sometimes just forget somebody's got to see how you did it and what you did, and that's the business that we're in. The other thing is we didn't used to use the word monitoring. We used the mean word of audit. But all it ever is good documentation. I mean, and that is how we do what we do. That's the reason a lot of us are pretty analytical and detailed and love the job that we do because we're wired that way. But it's nothing more than just justifying and being able to go back and measure the impact that you've made through your grant. So we like to not think about it as monitoring, and we definitely don't think about it as auditing anymore. We think about it as a standard that tells us we're doing a good job and that our grants have a quality impact to them.
On that note, this document, even in your off years when you're not being officially monitored or audited, can be a great tool for new staff members that are coming into those roles, just to help them continue to be mindful of things they should be making sure they're documenting, and pictures they're taking of things and those sorts of things all along the way.
Like Denise, we have not had any findings in Newberry County either, but there were some opportunities for us to make some tweaks. And like Lori said, going back to the student services department, that's not a department that I am responsible for. So there were things that needed to be tweaked and conversations that needed to be had because we're not full-time colleagues. And so just making sure that you're communicating with your folks and that you are kind of connecting and dibbling dabbling and everything.
Because I think even when it's not your department, because you're the one collecting the data, you feel like it's on you, even though it's really not. So it's like an extra little burden there that you're thinking, and you can't make people do things, but you can encourage, you can give them what they can to try to get things done.
My McKinney-Vento person was on a panel yesterday with the State Department. She's amazing. She's just a few years into the job, but just is intuitive and driven and a great documenter of things. So if she can help with anything, please reach out. She's done a super job.
This is my favorite distinction. No, that's not. Lessons learned. So, the last one. What process would you change, like next time, or how would you organize things differently, possibly, or any other advice?
I don't know if I would necessarily change anything. I really like the option of having the tool electronically so that I can share that out to the different departments and they can use those links to put them there. That was really convenient, and I still have the opportunity to go back and review and check and say, hey, this is good, this is not work. We did the same thing for the principals too. We created Google files and they had everything that they needed to upload in that file. That would really work really well for them too. And also gave us an opportunity to kind of I look and see, hey, my partner, my colleague uploaded this, I have this work, so I was pleased with the work that
I don't really think that you would replicate anybody else's process, it's whatever you're comfortable with, you know, what seems natural for you to do, and the easiest way to do it, just like some are using Google, some are using Word. So it's kind of hard to replicate somebody else's system, you just do what, you know, I've done it a lot of times, so I've kind of got it down to something that I continue to use because it's worked for us, but I think you just have to think through yourself and how things work in your district and what's easy for you to manage, to come up with that system for yourself. And I've borrowed lots and lots of stuff through the years, and so when you come to something with a monitoring tool that you don't know, just reach out to somebody, get a copy of it, and then make it your own, you know, for what works for you.
the organization is key to, organization is key. You can't ask questions, right, whether it's your colleagues, reaching out to your contact at the State Department, that is detrimental. You have to ask questions.
And we're here to answer questions. As you call it, it used to be the stigma. I call too many times, that's not true. If we don't stay busy, we get a lot of trouble.
For y'all, if you're not sure, send it to somebody and say, is it right or not, before you get to the point you're not.
And we have to do that too. I mean, we will be bouncing around with each other because we're all learning and doing things different. Collaboration is key.
And y'all ask for grace when you need it. When the schedule came out in the fall, my district was originally on the schedule for the fall. And I went to Barrett and I said, I'm panicking a little bit. I have a new superintendent, I have a new deputy superintendent, I have a new secondary director. Can I just have a minute with me on this? He was like, yeah, I'm afraid. So we, on the spot, got with the calendars and adjusted that a little bit.
Then I paid her back by moving it 2 days.
Yeah, we talked about it this week.
I think you can take care of a lot of items that are in monitoring. You have really great internal controls. If you were listening to Shane earlier, he talked a little bit about internal controls, and I would say that when we ask each other for things, I probably have more people call and say, when you share your internal controls more than anything else, is if you can get your system and get your internal controls where they work in your district well, that drives a lot of how people document and a lot of how things are collected, where it's stored, how efficient you can be is driven by that. And then work really close with your finance people. And I'm sure all of our offices look different in that respect. I have an absolutely wonderful special revenue person that sits in the finance office. I sit in academics. And so I think that's a strength in our district and hope that it's always been that way since I've been there, and I hope it always stays that way. That means that I have to have a really good working relationship with the CFO in the finance office, because a lot of what happens or doesn't happen gets caught there. And my HR department's the same way. We share a lot of documents, we share a lot of spreadsheets and things, and my schools hate it when they get something from somebody in HR or finance that says, Dr. Green has to sign this before it gets processed, because they've skipped a step. So the more interconnected you are in your district, the stronger the system will be, because you're all looking out for each other anyway. And I would say that relationship building takes a little bit of time at the beginning, but it pays off tremendously in the end.
Another thing I would suggest, y'all, is just don't forget about platforms that you already have in place that can save you some time. We use Parent Square, and I think a lot of y'all probably use that or something similar. Think about all the documents that are already there that you can either ask folks to pull from, or you can go in and pull it yourself and save them the time for the folks that are in buildings.
I will say one thing that we're going to be working on probably this summer as an office. I don't know if my team knows it really yet or not. But we're going to, because summer's a little more quiet in our office. We're going to try to work on a repository for exemplars to be posted on our site, So it's not saying exactly what you have to use, but hey, with credit due, this is how they do a really good job on internal control. Here's a sample. We're gonna work on doing something good practices. And really put some stuff out here. We want to be compliant, that's our goal, but we really our expectations do that. So we want to show some things beyond compliant. Because that's the next step. Compliant is like the bare minimum. We want to always do that. So we're gonna work. All right, pain points.
This is your favorite?
Well, that's because you're fighting. It just is what's that? All right, so throughout the whole process of monitoring of doing what you have to do on a day-to-day basis, what are things like just to advise to our other fellow farmers to be successful, not just with monitoring, but with day-to-day life in the job. And any pain points that we need to know about that could help the process on our own.
You know, I talked to you this morning even about, I think what they're gonna do this summer is really good, because I'm always wondering, is that what we're supposed to be eating? Is that the form I'm supposed to be doing? Am I covering everything with that? So I think having those pieces will help everybody, because that's what I said this morning, we're rule followers. Most of us in here, that's not really job we are. And so if you tell me to put it on this form, I'm gonna put it on that form. So I think having more things that we can pull from to know what you want and what we need, I think we'll all just do it.
I would say just start early. They're going to allow for some self-pacing for your team members within your timeline, so that it doesn't drive you crazy. A minor logistical thing, y'all probably think is nuts. On my last monitoring, I thought it was going to be brilliant to put all of these due dates in Google Classroom and have them submitted as assignments. That lasted about a week. And about 50 notifications in. I had not thought to turn those off. I was just aggravated. So don't do that, okay? Don't have them not notify you every time somebody uploads. That was not a good thing.
I could never lasted through that. And that's one of the things I love about Crate. It's not a pitch, but I mean, we were using Crate before we used it. Berkeley bought Crate before we took it on as a state. So it was a product that we saw some promise in a while back. But one of the great things about the system is that you can identify the item and then you can put a due date on it, and the system sends the person responsible a reminder. And at the end of the month, we pull those late reports, and I can tell you who hasn't turned in what or who hasn't loaded what. It'll say whether they loaded it. It'll say whether we've reviewed it. It'll say whether we rejected it and they need to reload it. We can put comments in it. So if you can use a system, and I agree, think about the systems you have in your district. You know, you need an inventory. You're probably using Destiny. Run your Destiny. Make sure everything goes in Destiny. Use a system that already exists. But work the system and let it work for you. Don't work yourself to death, because it'll take every minute you give it, and you'll have to find that balance. But use your systems, work them, and you know, just try to find the ones that you can make the most of, because there's a lot to do in this job.
And figure out what works best for you. You have to know that. What works best for you, utilizing your resources and your colleagues, that is so helpful for you. Because again, there's lots of knowledge in this room.
No pain.
Once I turn off those notifications, it's all.
We need to do some more things. All right, so any questions? So we got to have questions. Any questions? Something you would like to have heard? Now's your time. Go for it.
Drinks.
I thought you might skim over me and not let me pass, but first of all, I want to say thank you for the folks that you chose to be on this panel, because these are folks that I have reached out to, and I know all of us have at one time or another, many of you, and I love the collaborative support effort that we have here to help each other. That's amazing. So, and you're right, it's not like that in every state. But one of the questions I have really has to do with those in-between times between monitoring and the years that you're not being monitored by the state. I know we still have to monitor every year, obviously, but I want to know a little bit about what that looks like and how it compares to what you do the year you're being monitored. And I'll give you an example right now. We, in our district, I'm from the public charter school district, and we currently have 36 Title I schools. We went from having 12 to 14 to now 36 because of a new methodology of allocating funds to our schools. We have 44 schools total, 43 of them receive federal funds, and now we have 14 transfers that are coming next year from Limestone because they shut down and are transferring. So we're going to now, I don't know what our Title I situation will look like next year. So we'll have close to 60 schools. So what we have been doing is that every year, pretending as if we're being monitored, and we have been looking at almost every piece of documentation. We don't use Title I Crate, we use a different system, but Epicenter, and we review those, and it's like we're being monitored every year. We don't let any year go by that we're not reviewing school documentation. And our schools are located all over the state. So that's my reasoning for asking that question. And so do any of you do anything different during those years, or do you continue, or is there any, because I'm looking at figuring out how we continue to be sustainable in that moving forward as we continue to grow, and our staff doesn't, and that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
We do the same thing. I'll tell you, like with the calendars that we send out, that calendar's out every year, but they have to upload the same things every year. We change the due dates in once required, but I don't think you do it any other way.
It's just become it's like a map for documentation. When you're not being monitored, it's still your map for documentation. I told somebody the other day, our teachers have standards they have to teach, and those standards are how we know we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. The monitoring instruments are standards. That tells me I've documented what I needed to document. So we use it the same way every year, whether somebody's going to look at it or not.
Here, another question. I don't mean to take up so much time, but I'm really interested in looking at how we can do this better, more efficiently, and still sustain the type of support that we continue to give our schools, which is a lot right now. We spend a lot of time with all of our schools, and so that sustainability is what's in question. So my other question is, when you're pulling all that documentation every year, like your parent-family engagement policies and all those things, are you checking it against a checklist to make sure it has every component, and you're doing that every year?
Using that same document, the same document, all those details.
Well, and there's a check sheet for the parent and family engagement policy, and our folks turn in the check sheets. Well, my school facilitators check it themselves, and we do a peer check. We do a lot of peer review and a lot of peer checking in our district, but that is how the people in my staff right now, we're all facilitators at some point. That's how I'm training might be I'm training the next me, but definitely the next generation in the district. So they're doing that peer checking. They're using those tools themselves, and then it comes up to us, and we're putting eyes on it. But I can't grade everybody's paper every night. It's just not going to work.
So what you're saying, Denise, is that you're, like, for example, the parent-family engagement policy, you use that checklist, but you make your person who's responsible within that school be the reviewer to check it, and that's what they submit that along with.
They turn in the checklist with
That's
the
definitely a
policy.
much more sustainable process moving forward. And the three of us, or two people who are responsible for that.
We standardize everything, so we get the forms that we wanted on it, and we put it all in that one calendar, so every school has it. So we standardize it, so it's easy for us to know if they're doing it.
Sarah, is that, I'm just asking from a State Department perspective, is that allowable where you've got one person in the school who is responsible for the monitoring of what happens in that school, and their checklists and things that normally we would do at the district level is taking place at the school level, and they're submitting it to us?
I mean, I'm still responsible.
And they're still reviewing it. They're still checking.
But it's not coming to me halfway done because they have the rubric.
They're the first step.
Thank you. I'm done.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you for your support. I've always been real helpful to you.
All right. So the rest of us have contact information. So they're serious, please reach out if you have questions. And also, thank y'all. And this is not, this is moving.